going to show you how I make my Ginko Bilbao tincture. I'm going to make a tincture. I make these in small batches. This particular batch here is for home use, but just show you the process of making a tincture in a small batch. And this particular one is a very powerful herb, Ginko Bilbao. You can research that for all the benefits, tons of benefits. But what we do when we make tinctures, use a compound such as this here. This is this particular tincture we're using 100 proof vodka. Usually when it says 100 proof, that's basically 50% alcohol. You can use Everclear, you can use those type of vodkas, but the stronger alcohol is needed for woody or resins type of herbs and roots that you're trying to extract the nutrients out of. But for a plant, this right here is a leaf, ground leaf. And by this being ground to a powder, you have more surface area to work with. So it'll extract more of the plant compounds, the beneficial compounds. Now, this particular batch, I started 6 weeks ago. It takes about minimum 6 weeks to do a batch of tincture. So, and it's this particular method I'm using. You have a folk method, which is you just put some herbs in a jar and cover it with alcohol and cover it, seal it. That's a folk method. But I'm using it's a little bit more measured ratio method, as they call it. And this is basically 1 part herb to 5 parts alcohol. And this here just so I can get a consistent strength throughout whatever batches that I'm making. It's your consistency. Now we're gonna filter this. First, I'm gonna use cheesecloth. That's the first phase of filtering. I'm actually gonna put this cheesecloth into this jar. I'm gonna pour this herb into it and let it filter through until all of it comes through. In a second phase of the filtering, we use coffee filters to remove all the particulates that you can. In this case here, I end up getting it's like a coffee filter. And I'll put this particular filter back into a container, put a filter into this, like these natural filters, number 4s, and I'll strain it as many times as it takes to get it as to remove all the particulates in here. By this being powdered, you know, it'll take a lot of filtering. If you use ground herbs or loose leaf, it's less filtering. But we're going to be putting them into these 1 ounce dropper bottles. I've sterilized them, and of course it comes with droppers, and they come with these little funnels to help you get the liquid inside. And again, the process is tedious, but the result is you'll have a tincture. Tinctures last, they have a very long shelf life. They can last up to, you get tinctures that last 10 years or more, just like alcohol. And another thing about tinctures, by it being alcohol based, when you take tinctures, they're very potent and they go straight into the bloodstream, so it's fast acting. And I would just say this, with the tinctures, one of these dropper fulls of this tincture will be equivalent to 40 cups of tea. If I was making Ginkgo biloba tea. So again, very potent, a very potent way to make your own home medicines. So I'll be back with a little bit more showing you how I do this. Okay, I'm just gonna do a little voiceover. It's kind of noisy in the kitchen. My daughter came down to cook. But anyway, I'm using this cheesecloth. It's a pre-cut square piece of cheesecloth. And I'm sticking it down into this gallon-sized mason jar. And I need to stick it in far enough, give myself room to be able to pour the contents of that quart jar of tincture. And so I have to put like a rubber band around the mouth so that cheesecloth won't fall down into the jar. So that's what I did. I just found like a rubber band, hair band actually, my daughter's hair band, put that around there. Another thing I want to show is when you make a tincture, underneath the cap, you have to put a piece of wax paper to go between the jar mouth and the lid. If you don't, the alcohol will turn that black. You see how clean that lid was when I took it off. But that little piece of wax paper, it just cut like a little square enough to go around it, and you see it turned into a circle because of the shape of the lid, of course. But that will prevent that corrosion around the lip. So anyway, I'll take this, and then what I do is just pour as much as I can in. And this process is, you have to have patience because it takes several minutes for this to drain. It's catching all the particulates, and of course, the more you drain, a lot of that sediment is settled at the bottom. And I was only able to pour, like you see, just half of that quart. And what's remaining in there is a lot of sediment. Okay, so just wanted to show how slow this liquid drains. It's just like a coffee pot, you see that little stream of liquid just coming out. And it looks like it's clear, but it's not. As you can see, that's probably maybe 30 minutes. And that's what you have in that bottle. We still haven't gotten all of the tincture in there, but as you can see, it's getting lower and lower. And at this point, I had emptied the remaining tincture into that cheesecloth. And that's what you have left. Okay, now this is the second part of the filtering process with the coffee filters. So I'm using a permanent coffee filter with a paper insert, and that's gonna catch that remaining residue. But before I do that, I wanted to make sure that I can get all of the leftover liquid that might still be in there. So I get like a rubber spatula, and I just gently press down, and as you see, when I pressed on it, there's still some few drops in there. So I'm just gonna get all the liquid out as I can, because that's very valuable. It takes a long time to make that tincture, so you don't want to just throw away liquid that's in there. So you want to try to get as much of it out as you can. Okay, I just want to show what it looks like. It almost looks like sludge, but this is really that herbal compound that's been broken down by the alcohol. And this is what you have. You just press down and just wanted to, get the corners. As you see, that cheesecloth is pretty stable. It's not going to fall down in there. And you don't have to worry about it tearing and, the biloba dropping down into the filtered liquid. But you see the consistency of it. And I went a step further. I squeezed out all of the liquid, and this is what's left over. As you can see, it's pretty much dry. You just have the It's almost like a little cake. But that's what you want to see when you finish squeezing out that liquid. You want to get all of it out. Okay, so just to finish out this part two of the filtering process, it's the second phase with the coffee filter. So I'm gonna pour that liquid that's strained from the cheesecloth into this coffee filter, and this actually takes even longer to drain than the cheesecloth. Because the filters, the microns are smaller. So you pour it, just don't overflow it. Just pour it enough to where it goes up to the almost to the rim and just let it sit. And it takes, it could take 20, 30, 40 minutes. As you see, it's draining into this container and it's coming out even more clearer. As you see, it's catching a lot of that matter that's still in that liquid. So, of course, you can do that as many times. You can strain it as many times. Each time it's refined further and further. But for this batch here, I'm only going to refine it just that one pass through the coffee filter. So it's basically the cheesecloth and the coffee filter. Of course, I could keep refining it, but I'm not going to keep doing that. Okay, so now we're at the final step is the bottling process. So that's the refined liquid, the tincture. So I'm pouring it into these 1 ounce amber dropper bottles, and the bottles come with this funnel. It helps you get that liquid in there, and I put it in just little drops at a time. It also come with this dropper. I could have filled the dropper bottles with this long dropper that it come with, but I'm just for the sake of time, just gonna pour it in there. Just take your time. Don't be in a rush. And so I get that in and fill it up. Leave room for the dropper to go in so it won't spill. And I squeeze it and I release it once it get in, just so it'll suck up some of the tincture in it. And there you have it. That's the 1 ounce bottle of Ginko Bilbao. And this is me labeling up, and that's it. This is a batch bottled today, and I'm going to enjoy this.